If you've ever had lower back pain, then you know how brutal it can be, whether it's due to a disc injury, a muscle strain, or whether you've got sciatica. Then you go online to see how to fix it, and everyone seems to have their own method. One person swears by stretching, another person tells you to incorporate ice baths, and someone else tells you to stop bending forward altogether. Before you know it, you're left more confused than when you started. But there is a method that works, and I use this method every single day when I treat my patients with lower back pain. And I'm going to show you that exact method in this video. The real difference is that I'm not just focusing on the spine. If you're focusing purely on spinal movement, then you're also missing two major players when it comes to treating back pain, namely the hips and the pelvis. When those areas are moving better, your spine doesn't have to do most of the heavy lifting. So how do we look at improving the motion at the hips and the pelvis to help reduce lower back pain? Let's start by looking at the hips. Most of the rotation at the pelvis occurs from here. As you stand and pivot around your leg, your hip has to take most of the load. It's a ball and socket joint after all. If it's stiff or restricted, then that extra effort has to go through somewhere else. No doubt it's probably going to be your spine. And when that happens, trouble can start. To improve rotation at the hips, it's really simple, and you can start doing that by incorporating what's called a 90-90 exercise. Lay yourself down on the floor or on a bed, bend your knees and bring your feet to around hip width apart. And from that position, just start angling your legs out to the side, and then back in, and then repeating on the other side. This is a great way to incorporate rotation at the hip and a nice way to loosen up the hip joint itself. If it feels quite easy, instead of lying down completely, you can just sit yourself up. This incorporates a little bit more core activation to support your trunk in upright sitting, but all in all, it's just going to create more tension at your hip. Perform up to 10 to 20 repetitions a couple of times a day. This is a real nice way to loosen up that hip joint and take the stress off your lower back. So that explains improving hip mobility to help ease back pain. Next, we need to look at the pelvis. More pelvic motion means more available movement in the spine. A simple exercise for this is a hip hike on a step. Place one foot on a step with your arms across your chest. In my case, I'm using a box, but you can use a regular step at home. And slowly lift up your hip towards your ear, keeping the rest of your body nice and still. When you're performing this, you might feel that one side feels slightly tighter than the other. You might also notice that the quality of the movement doesn't look as good on one side compared to the other, and that is simply telling you that you should be focusing on that side to improve it. Although we can use this test to examine the issue, we can also use this exact test as an exercise. So again, just perform the same action with one foot on the step, hiking your hip up towards your ear, and repeating around 10 to 20 repetitions a couple of times a day. Just stop if either of these movements are super painful. And finally, we're going to look at the spine itself. And in particular, we're going to look at flexion of the spine. Now, flexion of the spine simply means bending forward. And most of the time, people experiencing lower back pain have a real difficulty leaning forwards. So instead, they do more movement from the upper segments of the spine rather than the lower back itself. So instead of forcing it, we need to perform an assisted version. And we can do this seated where the back has more support. This offloads a vertebrae, allowing it to move a little bit more freely, helping you rebuild trust in this movement again. The tip with this to feel more comfortable is to place your hands on your lap to really offload your lower back. And just go as far as you feel comfortable. And just like the other exercise, perform up to 10 to 20 repetitions a couple of times a day. So with that, I just basically summarized how to reduce lower back pain by increasing the mobility at both your hips and your pelvis. But you still can't ignore the spine. You've got to get it moving. And this last exercise works really well. Now, some of you might have also thought that I've missed a really important point when it comes to treating back pain, and that's looking at posture. But what I say in this next video might surprise you about why posture doesn't really matter too much. So you might want to check that out.